Welcome back to the deep dive. You've brought us quite a document today. Presidential Executive Order 14169. It's one of those really dense pieces of policy.
Yeah, thick reading, Federal Register style.
Definitely. It's titled Reevaluating and Realigning United States Foreign Aid, signed back in January 2025. So our mission today is, let's say, simple. Cut through all that jargon.
Right.
We need to figure out what this order actually says, who it hits first, and, what this big shift in thinking really means for how America spends aid money.
And it really is a big shift. This isn't just tweaking things around the edges. It's a mandated structural overhaul, a real shakeup of how billions in aid dollars get used.
Billions, okay.
Yeah, and crucially, it's not just about foreign governments. It immediately changes the rules for U.S. departments, agencies, and maybe most importantly, all those NGOs and contractors actually doing the work on the ground.
Yeah.
Globally.
Okay, let's unpack that, starting with the why. Section 1 seems to lay out the administration's core problem with the existing system. What's the main critique?
Well, Section 1 pulls no punches. It argues pretty forcefully that the whole U.S. foreign aid industry and bureaucracy, as they call it.
Industry, interesting word choice.
It is. They argue it's drifted way off course, that it's not aligned with American interests. And then they use this really strong language, often antithetical to American values.
Wow, antithetical. That's not just saying it's inefficient, that's saying it's fundamentally opposed ideologically.
Exactly. It's a direct ideological critique. And they take it further. The ER claims that by pushing these wrong ideas, the aid system has actually worked to destabilize world peace.
Destabilize peace.
By promoting concepts, it says, that are directly inverse to harmonious and stable relations both inside countries and between them. So the implication is that past aid might have unintentionally spread instability by promoting certain values or approaches.
So when you think about what U.S. aid traditionally funds, things like, democracy building, climate initiatives, maybe gender equality programs, are those the kinds of things they might now see as antithetical or destabilizing?
That's precisely the tension, isn't it? Promoting democracy or, say, climate resilience used to be seen as creating stability. But under this new lens, an administration focused heavily on national sovereignty, maybe traditional alliances, might look at funding for, certain civil society groups challenging local norms or specific climate policies, and see that as destabilizing. It draws a very clear political line.
Okay, so that's the problem statement. The old system promoted the wrong ideas, potentially causing instability. What's the fix? What does Section 2 mandate as the new guiding principle?
It's incredibly direct. Section 2 lays it out. Basically, no foreign assistance money goes out the door unless it is, and this is the key phrase, fully aligned with the foreign policy of the President of the United States. Full stop.
Fully aligned, that sounds dramatically different. Think about past aid models. Sometimes it was purely humanitarian or aimed at long-term development, almost separate from the day-to-day politics.
Exactly. This changes that entirely. Alignment with the current White House's specific foreign policy agenda becomes the absolute top filter. It's the non-negotiable prerequisite for any funding.
So it elevates political alignment maybe above even the traditional development goals?
Pretty much. The money now has to serve, two masters, the development goal itself and the administration's current diplomatic playbook. And if those conflicts on this EO suggests the policy agenda takes precedence.
Okay, mandate set. But the part that caused the immediate shockwaves was Section 3A, the so-called freeze button, an immediate pause. What exactly got frozen?
Right, this is where the panic buttons got hit across the aid world. The pause specifically targets United States Foreign Development Assistance Funds.
Development assistance.
Yeah, so it's a freeze on signing new contracts, new obligations, and also on sending out money for existing projects, the disbursements.
And just to be super clear, what's not included? Is all foreign spending paused?
No, and that's really important. It's focused on development aid. Things like military aid, security assistance, or, say, immediate disaster relief after an earthquake. Those generally aren't hit by this specific pause. They often operate under different rules. The target here is that longer-term development funding.
Got it. And who feels the freeze? Who's affected?
Oh, the scope is huge. It's not just foreign governments waiting for checks. The EO explicitly names implementing non-governmental organizations, international organizations, and contractors.
So the groups actually running the programs?
Exactly. Imagine you're running an NGO overseas, maybe a health clinic or an agricultural project, relying on that U.S. funding.
That 90-day pause means instant cash flow problems, staffing uncertainty. real operational stress.
And that 90-day clock starts ticking while reviews happen. What are they reviewing for specifically?
Two things, side by side. First, the traditional check, programmatic efficiencies. Basically, is the program well run? Is it working?
Standard stuff, right. But second, and this is the new gatekeeper, consistency with United States foreign policy. That's the political alignment test. Both have to be passed.
Okay, a massive freeze across government. How do they actually enforce that? How do they make sure every agency from state to USAID actually stops spending the money immediately?
That's where the administrative muscle comes in. The EO points directly to the Office of Management and Budget, OMB.
The budget office?
Yep, and it tells OMB to enforce the clause using its apportionment authority.
Apportionment authority. Okay,
Right.
break that down. What does that mean in practice?
Think of it like OMB controlling the master valve on the government's plumbing. Congress might allocate money to an agency that's the appropriation, but OMB, through apportionment, controls when and if that agency can actually access and spend the funds.
So they can just turn off the tap, even if Congress approved the money.
Legally, yes. For a period, under specific circumstances like this, EO directs. They can say, nope, you can't spend that money right now. It makes the pause legally binding, instantly, across the board, whether an individual agency likes it or not.
That's some serious bureaucratic power. Okay, so OMB turns off the tap. What happens during the 90 days and after? Who actually does these reviews you mentioned?
Section 3B sets up a very top-down structure. The heads of the departments and agencies running the programs say, the USAID administrator, they have to conduct the reviews.
Okay, so the agencies do their own reviews.
They conduct them, yes, but not independently. They have to follow strict guidelines set by the Secretary of State, working together with the director of OMB.
So the State Department, the top diplomatic arm, is setting the rules for how even technical agencies review their own development programs.
Precisely. That's a key structural shift. The criteria come from state, guided by foreign policy, not necessarily from the development experts within the implementing agencies. Power shifts towards the diplomatic side.
And after the review, does the agency head then decide, okay, program's good, let's restart the funding?
Not quite so simple. Section 3C covers the decision. Within the 90 days, the agency head proposes. Should we continue this program as is, modify it, or shut it down completely, based on that review, of course?
Proposes. But who makes the final call?
This is where that centralization really locks in. Any decision continue, modify, or stop requires the formal concurrence of the Secretary of State.
Concurrence, meaning the Secretary of State has to sign off on every single program decision.
Explicit approval is needed from state before any development aid can flow again. It essentially gives the Secretary of State veto power or approval power over all ongoing U.S. development work.
That's a massive consolidation of power away from specialized agencies like USA. So everything's frozen for potentially 90 days while this happens. Are there any ways around that? Any exceptions for critical programs?
There are. The EO builds in 2 escape hatches, likely reflecting, the practical needs of diplomacy and aid. First, Section 3 allows for early resumption.
How does that work?
If an agency finishes its review early, and the Secretary of State or someone they designate agrees, after checking with OMB, that the program meets the new standards, efficiency and alignment, then the funding can restart before the 90 days are up. It's kind of an incentive to comply quickly.
Okay, do the review fast, prove alignment, get the money flowing again. Makes sense. What's the second way?
The second way is much more direct. Section 3E grants the Secretary of State unilateral waiver power.
Unilateral? Meaning?
Meaning the Secretary alone can decide to waive the pause for specific programs.
Sure.
They don't necessarily need the full review or even OMB consultation in this case. If they decide it's diplomatically essential, they can just switch the funding back on for that specific program.
Wow. So the Secretary of State holds all the cards then. They can approve resumption after a review, or they can just bypass the whole process with a waiver.
That's pretty much it. It puts enormous day-to-day control over development aid flows directly into the hands of the Secretary of State.
Okay, one more mechanism question. What about new ideas? Say an agency wants to start a new aid program that wasn't around to be paused. Do they get a pass?
Nope, no loopholes there either. Section 3.2 also clarifies that any new foreign assistance programs or funding obligations also need the green light from the Secretary of State, again in consultation with OMB. The goal is clearly to ensure all spending, old and new, fits the new alignment model from the get-go.
Right, comprehensive control. Okay, before we talk bigger picture, let's quickly touch on Section 4. The standard legal stuff, the fine print, what does it cover?
Yeah, standard but important. Section 4 lays out the general provisions. First, it says the order has to be carried out consistent with the law, and this is key subject to the availability of appropriations.
Meaning Congress still controls the overall budget. The president can't spend money Congress hasn't given.
Exactly. This order controls how appropriated money is spent, not if it exists. Congress holds the ultimate purse strings.
And the other piece of fine print, something about lawsuits.
Yes, it explicitly states the order is not intended to and does not create any right or benefit, enforceable at law or in equity by any party against the United States.
Okay, translate that.
It means if you're an NGO whose funding got frozen, or a foreign government or a contractor, you can't successfully sue the U.S. government arguing this EO violated some legal right you had to receive that aid money.
So it effectively shields the policy change itself from immediate legal challenges by the people or groups directly affected by the funding pause.
It makes the administrative decision final in that regard. You can't challenge the pause itself in court based on a claim of entitlement to the funds.
I get the legal logic there, but stepping back, using OMB's power to freeze funds, centralizing control under the Secretary of State, doesn't this fundamentally inject politics into aid in a way that maybe undermines that long-term nonpartisan stability goal we used to talk about?
That is the fundamental debate this EO forces, isn't it? It deliberately trades away the older model, which often tried to keep aid somewhat technical and apolitical, managed by places like USAID, for a new model where immediate geopolitical alignment, as defined by the current administration, is the absolute driving factor.
Every dollar has to serve today's foreign policy objectives.
That's the mandate. Efficiency plus alignment.
So for you, the listener, trying to wrap your head around this dense but powerful document, what's the bottom line? What's a core takeaway from EO 412169?
I say the essential takeaway is a three-part restructuring plan for U.S. non-military aid. First, hit the brakes, an immediate 90-day funding pause for review. Second, centralize control. Give the Secretary of State the final say on all development spending, reducing agency independence. And third, impose a strict new standard. Programs must be efficient and demonstrate complete alignment with the President's specific foreign policy.
That centralization and the alignment mandate, that feels like a genuinely seismic shift in how U.S. development aid has operated for decades. Which brings us to a final thought for you to consider. The EO itself links global instability to the ideas promoted by past aid. So thinking about that, what specific areas of aid, maybe democracy work, maybe climate change programs, perhaps certain global health efforts, do you think are most likely to be cut back or maybe even prioritized under this new strict filter of political alignment?
Yeah, the document itself gives you the clues. Where will the axe fall and where might the money flow instead, based purely on that alignment criteria?
Definitely a lot to watch in the coming months and years. That's our deep dive for today.